Hi, grade 12s. Today we're talking about the remainder theorem, and I would like to just point out a few terms that will help you understand what we are talking about and how it works. So for instance, let's say you have a number, let's say 15. We're going to call this example 1. And I say 15 divided by 3, and then I will get an answer of 5, right? Terminology wise, this is our dividend, and the 3 is our divisor, and the 5 is our quotient. Okay, this is for any division problem, and you will agree with me that both 3 and 5 are factors of 15. So our remainder here is 0. But what if we had an example like number 2? We had 16 divided by 3. Now, if we want to do this, okay, wait, before I move over to this one, let me first show you what this means. Then for number 1, it means then that 15 equals 3 times 5. Okay, so keep this in mind. This will be very important later. For number 2, let's say we have something like 16. And you will agree with me that 16, if we divide by 3, I mean, it's going to be like 5.3 repetitive, right? But if we want to stick to the same format, we can divide 16 up as follows. We can say 16 is 3 times 5 plus 1. Because we know now that 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16. So in this case, we have a remainder. This 1 is called a remainder. We had a remainder over here as well, but that was just 0. Okay, so this is the basic concept that we're going to focus on the moment we work with variables like x and y and stuff like that. So keep this in mind. So in this case as well, if we had divided 16 by 3, 3 would have been the divisor, the dividend, and then 5 would have been the quotient, but 1 the remainder, and that's the one that's added for the remainder theorem. Okay, so another example will follow now in regards with variables and how we work with that, and also long division. So we'll have a look at that now. Okay, with the next example, I would like to show you how it works if we include variables, and this will be example 3. And the question is, divide x squared plus x minus 6 by x plus 3. And we are using long division. So some of you might feel a little bit rusty regarding long division and say, oh my goodness, I don't know what it is. Don't worry, I'll explain it thoroughly. So the steps work as follows. You say x squared divided by x, and the answer then is x. You write it at the top. Then x times x becomes x squared. X times plus 3 becomes plus 3x. Now we subtract this part from that part. X squared minus x squared is 0. x minus 3x is negative 2x. Negative 6 minus a 0 is negative 6. Now we do exactly the same as what we did with this expression we do from here. So negative 2x divided by x is negative 2. Now we use the negative 2, we multiply with x, it becomes negative 2x. We multiply the negative 2 with the 3 and it becomes negative 6. Now subtract, negative 2 minus negative 2 is 0. Negative 6 minus negative 6 is also 0. Terminology wise, let me just show you. This is the remainder. This expression is the dividend. This one is the divisor. And this one is the quotient. Okay. This automatically then means that x squared plus x minus 6 is equal to x plus 3 times x minus 2 plus 0. So this was example 3. Let's move on to example 4 and I will explain the same concept again. So example 4. So we are sticking to a similar expression. Let's say x squared plus x minus 8. And I ask you to divide it by x plus 3. X squared divided by x is x. X times x is x squared. X times plus 3 is plus 3x. You see it's exactly the same as the previous one. You subtract, x squared minus x squared is 0. X minus 3x is negative 2x. Negative 8 minus 0 is negative 8. Now, negative 2x divided by x becomes negative 2. Negative 2 times x becomes negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 becomes negative 6. Now we subtract again. Negative 2x minus negative 2x is 0. Negative 8 minus a negative 6 becomes negative 2. And you will clearly see now, this is our remainder. And the same here, this is the divisor. The x minus 2 is the quotient still, this is still the dividend. So, in our expression now, we will say x squared plus x minus 8 is equal to x plus 3 times x minus 2 minus 2. So, this is, in our case, the divisor, right? This was the quotient, and this is the remainder. And these two are being multiplied with each other, and the remainder is being added to it. So keep this in mind. I'll explain the theory after this. Okay, let's look at the theory. So now in your book you will find on page 158 you'll find this expression. It says fx is equal to bracket ax minus b times qx plus r. Now this R is the remainder, if you think about the examples I just did. Q is the quotient. This is the divisor, and fx is the dividend. Okay, so the remainder theorem basically states the following. Now let me first explain where they get that. If we would say that ax minus b is equal to 0, let's just quickly do that. Ax minus b is equal to 0. Remember, that will only happen if it's a factor, right? And I want to solve for x. Ax will be equal to b. X will be equal to b over a. So keep this in mind. This is where they got the b over a. So it basically says the following. That if we substitute in x's place b over a, we will get an expression that's only equal to r. Now let me prove that to you. So follow the expression at the top. That means for this first bracket, which is the divisor, a times b over a minus b times qx plus r. So just make sure you see where I got that from. That's where I got the b over a from. So we assumed it was a factor, and then we substituted in. Okay. But now let's see what happens to this expression. A times b over a becomes 0. So 0. This becomes b. B minus b is 0. So 0 times q is just 0, right? And this is the essence of the remainder theorem. So let us look at number 4 again, the previous example. We had x squared plus x minus 8, and we divided it by x plus 3. So in that case, we will say, okay, fx is equal to x squared plus x minus 8. Let's call this gx just for the sake of our explanation. So if gx is equal to 0, then x plus 3 is equal to 0, so x is equal to negative 3. That means, and you would remember that for this one, we got a remainder of negative 2. So keep that in mind. So now, if we substitute in x's place negative 3, let's see what happens. Negative 3 squared plus a negative 3 minus 8. So negative 3 squared becomes a 9 minus 3 minus 8. So 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. And this is the remainder. And that's basically how it works. This is the whole remainder theorem.